Pouring hot soup, carrying crystal glassware, and balancing heavy trays are standard tasks in any restaurant. But executing a flawless dinner service while the floor beneath you drops sideways into 30-foot oceanic swells requires a completely different operational reality. Standard kitchens rely on level, stationary floors and municipal infrastructure. On a vessel, the deck may pitch 30 degrees in any direction, while the entire operation is sealed inside a steel hull thousands of miles from the nearest hospital. Because of these extreme environmental factors, the maritime industry operates under a strict, non-negotiable directive. The safety of the guests, the crew, the food, and the vessel itself explicitly outranks the speed of service. To operate safely under this directive, crew members are required to internalize a rigorous framework of 30 distinct operational protocols. These 30 rules are organized into a conceptual matrix known as the 4 pillars of maritime F&B security. This structure divides the protocols into 4 actionable categories: kinetic, biological, emergency, and human factors. Grouping these procedures into a unified system prevents cognitive overload. During high-stress moments, like a severe storm or a medical crisis, crew members can recall exactly what to do without hesitation. We begin in the red quadrant, which dictates how the crew combats the physical forces of the ocean acting on the ship's interior. A moving vessel constantly shifts the center of gravity for everything and everyone inside it. Severe pitch and roll turns static objects into immediate, heavy projectiles. Heavy weather dictates precise kinetic adaptations. Crew members must physically lock down service trolleys when not in motion, deploy anti-slip tray mats at buffets, and reduce their carrying loads so they can maintain one free hand to brace against the ship's movement. Gravity enforces rigid manual handling procedures. Heavy stores must be lifted by bending the knees. Crew members must explicitly utilize handrails, and designated stairways must remain completely clear of obstructions at all times. To counteract the vessel's momentum, sharp and fragile items require specific securing methods. Knives are stored point down in designated racks, and beverage bottles are locked into customized retaining restraints to prevent shattering. Managing liquids carries extreme risk. Sudden deck shifts turn scalding soup into a severe hazard. To manage this, standard cups and bowls are never filled to the brim, and all hot transport requires specialized insulated containers. Kinetic safety requires active, constant counteraction of unpredictable oceanic forces against standard hospitality equipment. This top-down schematic shows a rapidly spreading pathogen vector, moving us into the green quadrant, biological control. A ship is a sealed biological system. If a single pathogen is introduced, the dense population and shared air systems dictate that it will spread exponentially, rather than isolating itself. This flowchart visualizes standard HACCP operations, the primary frontline sanitary defense. Crew follow exact hand-washing procedures, rely on strictly color-coded equipment to separate raw and cooked ingredients, and continuously swap out buffet utensils. Maintaining these strict temperature limits for hot and cold foods is the required barrier against rapid bacterial replication. Confined environments also amplify the risk of chemical sanitation. Staff must strictly adhere to safety data sheets, and the mixing of different cleaning compounds is absolutely prohibited to prevent toxic gas exposure. If a pathogen like norovirus is suspected, the vessel shifts to an aggressive defense. Crew initiate constant disinfection of high-touch surfaces across all decks and maintain a rigid state of public health inspection readiness. Biological risks also involve specific guest vulnerabilities. Managing severe food allergies demands precise, error-free communication between the service staff and the galley to prevent fatal medical emergencies miles from shore. In this isolated loop, a single hygiene failure at a localized buffet station possesses the capacity to halt the operational integrity of a multi-billion-dollar vessel. Stepping out of the galley, the yellow quadrant integrates the F&B department directly into the macro survival systems of the ship. Under international maritime law, food service personnel hold dual roles. They are hospitality staff, but they are also designated primary emergency responders. Fire at sea is the ultimate crisis. F&B teams mitigate this by enforcing electrical lockout procedures, identifying exposed wiring, and maintaining the vital structural function of keeping designated fire doors securely closed. During an evacuation, precise duties take over. Crew members must know their exact muster stations, actively participate in survival drills, and master complex abandoned ship procedures. External threats require equal vigilance. Under international security regulations, F&B personnel are tasked with verifying guest identities, locking down restricted zones, and identifying suspicious packages left in dining areas. When massive groups gather during embarkation or special events, crew must actively manage crowd movement to guarantee that primary emergency escape routes are never obstructed. Adherence to this pillar transforms a server into a trained security asset, directly responsible for preserving the vessel's structural integrity. This infographic, plotting working hours against exponential error rates, introduces the blue quadrant. This final pillar focuses entirely on the human element responsible for executing the previous three systems. Physical readiness begins with mandatory gear. Crew must equip appropriate personal protective equipment, ensuring they wear non-slip shoes and utilize cut or heat-resistant gloves tailored exactly to their station. The most persistent threat to a maritime crew is fatigue. Strict compliance with internationally enforced work-rest hour regulations prevents the exhaustion that leads to critical cognitive and physical failures. Active behavioral intervention applies to passengers as well. To prevent onboard altercations or accidents, crew are mandated to monitor guest behavior and refuse alcohol service to visibly intoxicated individuals. Delivering service to individual cabins requires strict procedural boundaries. Crew must announce their presence and verify the occupant's identity before entering, protecting the security of everyone involved. Accurate communication is a safety requirement. F&B teams must use standardized maritime terminology to rapidly report near misses and unsafe conditions up the chain of command. The most advanced physical restraints and rigorous biological controls will inevitably fail if the crew operating them is compromised by exhaustion or miscommunication. The fully populated matrix visualizes the sheer volume of procedural knowledge required to safely execute a food service operation on the open ocean. This network of 30 protocols operates as an interlocking shield against both kinetic and biological threats. A failure in one quadrant instantly triggers a cascade across the others. An unlatched trolley in the red pillar's domain can easily injure a passenger, instantly activating the yellow pillar's emergency response systems and pulling critical resources from across the vessel. Operating a restaurant on the high seas is a rigorous, daily execution of massive-scale risk management, strict physical restraint, and uncompromising environmental control. In the maritime industry, the absolute preservation of human life and vessel integrity must always take priority over the speed of service.